Weston Hospital, West Virginia's oldest public institution, has been operating for nearly 130 years. Located on a 200-acre hillside, the facility treats patients, or clients as the hospital prefers, over the age of 18. All are mentally ill or retarded, and the goal, as with all hospitals, is to release the patients to the community. These people are in a world of their own, here because their communities can no longer care for them. What you're about to see is real, and for many, a real dilemma. The patient population has grown from less than 50 during the Civil War to nearly 400 today. Patients receive a variety of services. Weston serves 38 counties under the direction of the State Health Department. Rain Valdov is the hospital administrator.
I mean, the people that we serve are people that are in our communities and in our families, and very often are people that other people just don't want, and society doesn't want. But somebody has to take care of them, and we have to try and provide the best services we can with the limited resources that are available.
Limited resources. $160 million has been earmarked for mental health in the current budget. Nearly half of that goes to state hospitals. Last summer, Weston made headlines when 3 patients died. Inadequate air conditioning blamed for at least 1 death. Now, nearly a year and 1 administrator later, the problems seem to be mounting.
2 weeks ago, an employee was attacked by a patient, got 2 ribs broken. People in these institutions are suffering and just cannot wait any longer. The state has to come to grips with this problem and understand that they need to funnel resources in there now.
Mott says more than half Weston's patients were injured from May to October 1983, an alarming statistic, one which concerns Governor Arch Moore.
We're now planning not only our budget for the next session of the West Virginia Legislature, meaning the budget for the next spending year, but we're also planning any program changes and shifts. And your questions sort of focus our attention in the area of mental health and will, in my judgment, be beneficial to our consideration.
Tomorrow, a close-up look at staff and patient abuse and some proposals for change. Alan Cohen, WCHS TV, News 8, Weston.
They gave me a shot of Halidol, and it was terrible. The muscle spasms in my back and neck, it was unbearable for about 12 hours. And I asked for help numerous amounts of times, and they just said, that'll teach you. Next time, you'll get some more.
Danny Clyburn is awaiting trial in the Kanawha County Jail. He spent about a month at Weston for a court-ordered examination. Clyburn says treatment was inhumane.
I know a guy that was beat. They was 3 security guards come in and just dragged him out, whooping him all the way.
Incidents like that concern those close to the Weston situation. Hospital Administrator Rain Valdov has a strict policy on patient abuse.
If a staff member did abuse a patient, the staff member is suspended immediately, and there is action taken to terminate his services. I will not, in any case, condone patient abuse.
But that's not enough for some. Delegate Bob Conley serves on the Joint Interim Subcommittee on Health and Social Services. They conduct periodic reviews of state hospitals. Conley says 2 Weston administrators should be replaced.
Well, I'm convinced that unless these 2 particular ones are not removed from this hospital, that employee relations are going to continue to deteriorate.
Care to name names?
Yes, sir, I'll name the names. One is Boyd Welling, the assistant administrator, and who's in charge, I understand, of personnel. The other one is Joel Flaxer.
Flaxer is also an assistant administrator. Both are holdovers from Weston's previous administration, something Conley believes hinders their effectiveness. Governor Moore is reviewing the entire mental health system.
If we find any areas in which the composition of the administrative personnel is complicating what we want to do, the track record shows that the Archmore administration will move and move quite swiftly.
But the health and welfare of the patients it serves are any hospital's prime responsibility, something the new director of the health department is aware of.
It's so important that the patients are in an environment that's conducive to therapy, but it's just as important that the employees are in an environment that's conducive to work.
Tomorrow we hear from those employees and their concerns in treating the mentally ill. Alan Cohen, WCHS TV, News 8, Weston.
Well, actually, I had 3 beatings. And those 3 beatings, I've learned that not to get involved with people who've gone off the deep end, who are demonstrating poor judgment at the moment.
While at Weston, a number of patients told us of physical abuse by staff and other patients. This man says an aide twisted his arm when he refused to see a doctor. He also claims to be the victim of sexual advances by a male aide. He says Weston's psychiatrist is a fake.
You have to remember that one of the things these patients suffer from is that their sense of reality is way off and they're delusional.
Dr. Haynes is Weston's only full-time psychiatrist. Plans to hire another one this summer are in the works. This is Ward 5. It's the highest level of the psychiatric unit. 33 patients on this ward. Doors are open 24 hours a day, and most patients have passes to go into town.
Yeah, nice dog. Nice dog.
Here, pets and smoking are permitted. Billy spent several months in the psychiatric unit. He says Weston's helped him.
When I come in here, I was totally a wreck when I first come in here. I mean, I couldn't hold a cup of coffee in my hand.
Pauline spent more than a year in the Mountaineer Care Unit for elderly patients.
Well, I like the food, I like their activity, I like the aides and all the staff and doctors. They've been very good to me.
But not all patients support Weston. Cindy and Lewis are residents of the substance abuse unit, committed for alcoholism. They say Weston's helped them, but they've seen a number of problems.
There has been a roach found in a hamburger was mixed up and served on trays. There are hair found on trays.
I've seen roaches and, it gets pretty sloppy.
Lewis also claims he was mistreated by a doctor for a head injury.
He says, I could either cut a piece of your brain out, cut your head off, or he said we could let you go and go out there and drink yourself to death.
We also learned of similar incidents, but administrators are quick to defend the staff.
99% of the staff that we have here are good, quality, caring, capable people. And we shouldn't generalize because of one incident that may occur that all people are not good.
Tomorrow, a look at the mental retardation unit and some proposed changes. Alan Cohen, WCHS TV, News 8, Weston.
The developmental disability part, where the mentally retarded people live, is totally unacceptable. It's the worst I've seen in 15 years. It's barbaric, and in my opinion, as a mental retardation professional and a court monitor, there's no way that it can be made acceptable.
Charles Burkhouse was appointed by a Kanawha County judge to monitor the Hartley program guaranteeing patient rights. The Hartley decision was accepted 2 years ago by the Health Department as a standard for state institutions. Burkhouse issued this 31-page report on Weston's mental retardation unit after 2 consultants inspected the facility last January. He says it's so bad that patients can die.
Saw people who were unclothed, saw feces on the floor, saw hoses that are used to squirt people off, saw 23 people waiting in line to take a tub bath, and the bath not cleaned between baths, saw co-educational nudity, saw men and women sitting on toilets side by side, taking care of their bodily functions, saw barbarism.
We observed none of those conditions, but Burkhouse produced pictures that showed otherwise. He says these patients are lying on mattresses coated with material harmful to skin. This woman was seen partially unclothed, with rags on her feet. Burkhouse says shoes are kept under lock and key, along with cleaning materials. Exposed drains in living areas were also discovered, and patients were seen lying on the floor, which we noticed in other units. Burkhouse says we were the victim of a snow job, something he claims is common in state hospitals. The Hospital Employees Union agrees.
There's no doubt that things were fixed up in anticipation of you coming through. And the MRDD unit is a ward where employees are asked to deal with an impossible situation.
But 27 employees of the unit disagree. In a memo, they admit building improvements are needed, but say good points in resident care were overlooked. The staff says no resident came down with hepatitis as the report suggests, but they conceded more staff would help. The memo concluded with an admission of physical abuse. The state health director agrees with the monitor's report.
Of course there's truth in it, and I've talked with the court-appointed monitor, and we've talked at length about this, and I think together we can really work out these things.
Under a court order, Weston's mentally retarded will be transferred to community programs by July of next year. In addition, a new 250-bed facility is on the drawing board for 1987. Tomorrow, Weston's future. Is there any hope? Alan Cohen, WCHS TV, News 8, Weston. There's no doubt that Weston's important to the Lewis County economy. The hospital provides over 600 jobs, but residents in the community appear divided.
I really don't think it's secure. I mean, they could do more about the security and stuff.
I don't pay any attention to it. I don't mind it. It don't bother me any.
Sometimes I'm scared. Except like when they get loose, because I have a baby.
Glenn Brown's lived across the street from Weston for 60 years.
I think they do a much better job now than they've ever done before.
Still, there are those calling for change. Some believe improving Weston hinges on economic recovery.
If we build the economy, get more industry, have more employment in the private sector in this state, then you'll have a greater tax revenue coming in with which you can make improvements in mental health. So I think the governor's right, and the legislature's right.
Others blame the health department for Weston's troubles.
We've been very dissatisfied with the health department up to this date for failing to take a stand and to demand that the legislature adequately fund these hospitals. They have not done that.
The state health director admits funding could be the problem, but not necessarily the solution.
We're willing to provide the expensive technology and resources for the treatment of very complicated disabilities, except this complicated disability. Now that's a very difficult thing to face up to.
And Governor Moore says the state's doing a reasonably good job with Weston, but there's room for improvement.
I think at the present time those funding levels are adequate. We can do and carry out a lot of the areas of improvement simply by sharpening our administrative focus.
But that does nothing to calm certain employees. Elmer Turnick likes working at Weston, but criticizes the administration.
People are definitely afraid of some of the residents, and the consensus of the staff is that the administration will not back us if we defend ourselves. I've been involved in several incidents where patients became uncontrollably violent, and security guards were summoned.
While we were there, 2 patients were injured. One received 7 stitches. Is help on the way? Well, Governor Moore just signed a $1.5 billion budget package. Weston didn't get 38 requested positions. But the governor and Weston's administrator are aiming to get the hospital accredited. That would attract additional funding and a lot of hope. Alan Cohen, WCHS TV, News 8, the Capitol.